Information Society Watch 2015 edition, which is on sexual rights in the information society, on the internet. So we want to keep this quick because we know you need to go and get lunch. So my name's Anriette Estes and I'm from APC. And together with our partner in this project, HIVOS, we'll just tell you a little bit about it. And then you're going to hear from the team that produces this, and then from some of the authors. So the idea of GISWatch emerged in very much in the post-WSIS phase. As civil society, we felt that the WSIS outcome documents just did not produce any, well, not particularly solid frameworks for us to measure whether governments were implementing a people-centered, human rights-oriented information society. And we felt we needed to do our own stock-taking and our own analysis. And so in 2007, we did the first edition of GISWatch, and it's an attempt to do that. The first edition of GISWatch focused on inclusivity, participation in policy processes. And since then, we've had other themes that we've covered every year. And I'll ask actually the GISWatch team to present them to you. I'll just tell you what the kind of formula or the theory of change of GISWatch is. Every year we touch on a different theme. We try to make that theme relevant to the experiences of civil society actors. So last year's report was on surveillance because of the Snowden revelations just changing how we were all thinking about the safety and security of the internet. Every report has two parts. It has a few thematic chapters at the beginning, often written by really prominent academics and researchers in the field. And those try to analyze some of the macro issues around that theme. And then we have country reports. Alan, Roxana, how many countries do we have this year? 57 countries this year. And those country reports are really owned by the people that write them. They will focus on a topic or a story or a personal experience from that organization that relates to the theme. And you'll hear what those experiences and those themes were with the sexual rights edition this year. And for us, that the country papers really is the substance of what GISWatch is about, because we see it as a way for advocacy groups to explore and learn about a new theme, but also to use that new theme, if it's a theme in which they work, to tell their stories, but to tell their stories through a policy lens and through an action-oriented lens, not just to tell their stories from how they are being constrained or how they are being marginalized. So the idea of the country reports is build knowledge, do research, do analysis, think policy, and think forward, think change, and how can we bring about change. And that's really for us the idea of GISWatch. So country authors are also different. Sometimes they are organizations, sometimes they are individuals. But what is a really important criteria is that they are invested in change and in social justice and in human rights around that theme. Hanan is from our partner in GISWatch, HIVOS.
Thanks, Henriette, and thank you for the invitation. I feel honored, being here talking about GISWatch, one of the prominent, I think, publications in the IG sphere, and I had the privilege to contribute in many editions in the past, authoring either regional reports or expert perspective or country reports. So this is one of the projects that is very close to HIVOS' heart, and we do support it, I think, from the very beginning. In terms of this year, I think the topic is quite interesting, and we will hear more from the authors about their experience doing it. But I think one of the most important outcomes of this project, in my opinion, being a past contributor, is that it expresses your own experience in a specific field, but it also gives you the floor to suggest policy recommendations on how a specific issue could be dealt with. For example, when I contributed in an edition about women, participation in the policy field, it was quite a vivid experience because I could write about my own experience, and that could be transferred, all around the world, and you feel like you're an ambassador. So in terms of an opportunity, to reflect on what's going on in your life or in your local context, it's a very valuable, and it's a publication that has a very good reputation. I think APC take all the credit for putting it together. It's such a beautiful book, and I keep a copy every year, and I think everybody should get one. And this is also one of the topics that is very close to Hivo's heart in terms of a theme, because we have a whole theme on sexual rights, LGBT rights, and we try to collaborate with different partners all around the world to execute projects which will add value to the field in general, but also to empower women and girls to be more expressive about their needs, but also it gives us a scope of what's going on in other regions. So I'll leave the floor to the people who actually were behind this work, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Hanan. And they are color-coded, and it's true, they look very good, and every year is a different color, so do try and get a complete set if you can. I'm now going to ask someone in our team to talk about the issue of sexual rights on the internet and why we decided it was important to do this edition. So Nadine, where are you?
Thanks. You can still call me Nads in these settings, Henry. It's fine. The Women's Rights Program has been working on this issue of sex and sexuality for quite a long time, its relation to the internet, and it wasn't very clear to us what was the policy landscape of this. How do we bring sex, which is usually the realm of the taboo and the dirty and the unspoken, into a space that is a UN space that wants to talk about how we govern something technological and basic and critical in our lives. And so I think our journey with sexual rights and the internet at APC, and correct me if I'm wrong, started with this idea of exploring the research around sex and ICTs with the Erotics Project, which looked at how is sexuality constructed online. How do sexual rights activists or sexual minorities or women in general use the internet? What are they using it for? What do they do about it, etc.? And based on this research came up with how the internet is critical to connecting people, mobilizing people, spreading information, free expression, talking about things that are so taboo that we were unable to talk about for a very long time. And we see how the development of the internet as an open space has led to the development of more speech around sexuality by women, by queers, by all sorts of sexual minorities. So I think this issue comes at a very good time to sort of expand our work on sexual rights into our greater membership here at the Internet Governance Forum, our allies, our networks. I think Alan will speak a bit about this, but there was so much excitement when the call first came out, because we were a little worried, to be honest. Yeah, we were a bit like, how are people going to react? Are people going to be interested? Are they going to know what to write about? Is there going to be do people have stories to tell about sex who usually write for GISWatch who are more into policy? So how are we going to bring these two worlds together? Because actually there was a lot of excitement and a lot of great case studies and a lot of excellent thematic articles in this issue. So we're very happy, we're very excited about putting this issue out. And I want to thank Rox and Alan and the contributors. I hope they read us a little bit from what they've written or talk about their submissions, because I think it opens up. We just had this panel on LGBT rights and the IGF And a lot of people were saying this is the first time we get to talk explicitly about LGBTs at an IGF. It was certainly the first time I see a rainbow flag running around the room. So I think there's some taboos that we're breaking, and I hope that with this issue we break more of these taboos and start to talk about sexual rights from a rights perspective, and not so much from a taboo perspective.
Thanks very much, Nads. And I think it's a good opportunity to celebrate that this year is the first year that there was a workshop at the IGF with LGBT in its title. A workshop that went through the multi-stakeholder advisory group application process, and that made it through. So really cause for celebration. Nadine or Nads, I call her Nadine. Maybe I have reasons for calling you Nadine today, Nads. I'm not sure. Nads mentioned the team. The team that compiles GISWatch is small but phenomenal. And I next to me is Roxana Bassi, who is the coordinator, and she'll talk more later. And then Alan Finley, who's been the editor and compiler of GISWatch since the very first edition in 2007. And Laurie, where's Laurie? And Laurie Nordstrom, who has been the copy editor of GISWatch since the first edition in 2007. And together they work with texts coming from all over the world, different language authors from different language groups, different perspectives, different levels of experience, and they produce this amazing thing. So we'll applaud you at the end. But Alan is going to tell us about the 2015 edition. And yes, Alan, why don't you tell us a bit more about it?
Thanks, Annette. Yeah, I mean, as Nadine said, there was a lot of excitement with this issue. There was also some sensitivities. I mean, there were one or two authors that specifically didn't want to write on this topic because of the situation in their country. So there's a balance between the excitement and very active oppression going on. I was thinking how to describe sort of editing GISWatch from my own perspective, and I thought actually it's a transformative process for me. Because of course we start each issue with a way into the theme and a way to think about it, but through the editing process and through working through GISWatch, this perspective is deepened and transformed entirely. And personally, I find it quite a humbling experience working through all these reports with these authors. There are 57 country reports in this one, as we said earlier. They deal with a range of themes, LGBT rights, how the internet facilitates those rights, but also inhibits them through hate groups that use the internet sometimes more effectively than progressive groups. Sex education in schools is another theme in several of the reports. It's also a topic here at the IGF, teenage sexuality, issues of sexting, how to deal with it, how not to deal with it. Of course, the role of oppressive institutions and countries feature a lot. And particularly the Catholic Church, which was a bit of a surprise because groups aligned with the Catholic Church are actually quite vocal and quite active online. There's a report on contract marriages in China, and also quite controversial reports, for instance, on cartoon child pornography in Japan and how freedom of expression advocates tend to clash with child protection advocates. Very good legal analyses, particularly from Canada, there's a very good one. And it even touches on surveillance and how sexual harassment state of surveillance is used to sexually harass activists. The 8 thematic reports are really brilliant, and I wanted to just say the other thing is that thanks very much to WRP for shaping the content to this report, and they've been instrumental in putting us in contact with the thematic authors and many of the country authors, and just the general sort of intellectual orientation to the issue. The thematic reports cover, there's one is a narrative report around the everyday lives of LGBT people offline and online. This a report about the global policy spaces. There's an analysis, a very interesting analysis of how the protection of children discourse, online protection of children discourse frames children, which are generally, you see it in the media too, it's generally as passive recipients as opposed to active creators of their online realities. There's a report on the commercialization of free expression, and there are two great articles on pornography. One being an insider view of the commercial US pornography industry and discussing that in terms of consent. I was asked to give a few stats. So 10 reports are from Africa, 10 from Asia, 17 from Europe, mostly because we have a very strong representation from the Balkan states this year. LAC, there are 13, the Middle East, there are 5 reports, North America 1, that's the Canada report, and Oceania, there's 1, that's Australia. I would like to thank the authors most of all, because they're at the core of each edition of GISWatch. Roxana printed out some earlier issues, and the 2007 one, if you look at some of those authors, they've written every single year since 2007, and some of them have basically produced little books on the internet and seeing it from a civil society and human rights perspective, which I think is really great. So I'd like to thank them and all the other authors that came on board since then and have written with such insight, dedication, and passion. And I hope people who read GISWatch experience this transformative effect, which I think it does have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alan. And now we'd like the authors that are here to just identify themselves and say which country they are from, and we'll start from Wolf. And in one sentence, what writing this report has meant to you.
Thanks, Henriette. My name is Wolf Ludwig. I'm from Switzerland. I'm basically German, but living half of my life in Switzerland now. And writing almost from the very beginning, the annual country report about Switzerland made me very conscious about my new home country. So it promoted year by year, concentrated either access on infrastructure, access to content. It was always another annual topic to get familiar with the different facets of the country. And let's say 2 reports were particularly important for me. There was, I think, about 2 years women's rights and ICT, where I had to dive in, let's say, the feminist history in Switzerland, which is a dark spot. And I think it was according or due to my report that a lot of people understood that women's rights in Switzerland were introduced in the 90s, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And Switzerland in the outside world is mostly perceived as a modern, rich, wealthy, well-off country. And the dark sides of its history are very hidden. So I think it's year by year an opportunity to show other facets of the country. And this year's report was particularly, at the beginning, difficult to me. I was very hesitant. There was a moment when I even thought about not contributing this year, because I suddenly realized that I have a history myself. And during my study years, it happened that I lived in a gay living community, being only heterosexual. And for me, it was a tremendous experience at the time. It was in the early 70s when homosexuality was still criminalized in Germany. So my friends warned me, please take care, think twice, living with us. Because next day, when we are denounced, police may stand in front of the door and you can get in trouble with us. So for me, it was a first access. I learned to see gender sexual issues in a completely different way what marked the rest of my life. And I'm very grateful for this essential experience at the time. And once I realized that this is now perhaps an opportunity, reflecting after many years the issue, sexual rights and the internet, was afterwards extremely helpful, and it was a pleasure to contribute. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Wolf. We should try to, if I can ask the authors to be, because we had to cut we were going to ask all the authors to say quite a bit, but we had to cut it so that people could go and have lunch. So I'm really sorry, I apologize to everyone and to you, Wolf. So just, name and country and something very quick if you can. Ariel, go next. Just introduce yourself. Let's just go along the line. I won't even interrupt it to speed it up. Just one after the other.
Thank you very much. My name is Ariel Barbosa. I am from Colnodo, APC member in Colombia. We made a research about a specific case. The name of the center of the interview was Sergio Rego, who was
You'll speak a bit closer to the microphone.
The name of the research was about a boy called Sergio Rego. He killed himself after receiving a lot of pressure on social networks, his family and his school. So the research is about the legal implication of that situation, because there was a lot of pressure for part of the family, the school, even for the general attorney in Colombia. But I think there are a lot of talks and a lot of resolve after this situation, because this week the Supreme Court in Colombia obliged to the school to ask for pardon because of the situation. So I think this kind of reports has a lot of impact specifically in our country. I'm sorry, the name of the author was Ana Maria. Ana Maria Orozco was the name of the author of the report.
Yes, I'm Lisa Garcia from the Foundation for Media Alternatives based in the Philippines, and writing the article on sex, sexuality, and the internet rights in the Philippines made us realize that we want to explore more about these issues and to do some more research about it. Thank you.
My name is Bishaka. I'm from India. I wrote the chapter called Porn Panic Ban, and realized in the process everything that I disagree with around policies around sort of pornography banning, etc. I really want to thank Alan and Roxana for being totally pleasurable, productive, and fabulous to work with. Yeah.
My name is Byung-il Oh. Actually, I'm not an author, but cooperate with an author very closely. We mainly deal with hate speech against sexual minorities in South Korea. So I'm very happy to have an opportunity to make a report about the situation in South Korea. Thank you.
So I'm Mariana from Internet Lab. We wrote the chapter about Brazil, me, Natalia, and Lucas. I'd like to thank Roxana and Alan very much. It was a very nice process. The editing process was also very nice. And if I had to say something, I guess that would be that it was an incentive for us to go into a case study. It's part of a larger research for us, and that was very, very important to understand the reality in Brazil. So thank you very much for giving us that opportunity.
I am Natalia, and I think I'm a researcher and activist and a black woman talk about a reality that's very near me, that's make me happy and realized.
Hi, my name is Lucas, and I'd like to address the IGF to put LGBT as a flag to think and to move forward into problems that we actually need to address daily. So thank you very much.
My name is Arij. I wrote the report titled Criminalizing, Redressing, and Empowering Canadian Legal Responses to Cyber Misogyny. I'm a lawyer. I work with Alternative, and the main point of the article is that maybe we should stop requesting the state to enact laws to protect women and thereby keep them in a victim role, and instead find ways to empower women from our communities in the online world.
Good morning. My name is Eduardo Rojas. I wrote the report of Experience Bolivian for installation system for elimination material of abuse pornography infantile in my country with Alliance Network Global for elimination pornography infantile with Alliance actor multisectorials in Bolivia. These efforts written down of voluntaries in my country. Thanks.
Yes, I'm Françoise, and I'm based in Kinshasa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I wrote a story with the title "It's Not an Issue Until It's Become an Issue" on the use of internet by the LGBT community in my country. It was an assertive way of saying that they exist, they are doing things, they are organizing, and internet has been a powerful tool for this closeted and underground community to really talk about their issues. And it was very, very much appreciated to have editing from the GISWatch team, because I'm a French speaker, but I was able to write it in English. Thank you.
Hello, sorry, I wasn't expecting to speak as an author, but now I'm reminded that I'm an author too. So, my name is Flavia, and me and Florencia Roveri, a colleague from Argentina, we wrote the country report, as we have been doing since 2007. We are one of the cases that Alan mentioned. And this year it was about a sexual education program, a national one that we have in Argentina, and how it crosscuts or doesn't crosscut. That was our question, with a program similar to one laptop per child that we have there from the national government. And we made quite interesting discoveries and findings, and we came up with a few good recommendations. So I'm really excited to be able to share it with you today.
Valentina from One World. I'm happy and proud because my organization did the 5 reports together with 5 wonderful organizations and individuals from the Balkans, queer and queer friends. So I would like to thank, we did the report for Albania, together with Citizen Right Defender, for Bosnia-Herzegovina with Okvir, and there is one case that happened to them about the Facebook real name policy that I look forward for you to read. Croatia with the feminist portal Vox Femine and the cultural area, sorry, I have to prostorodna I medijska kultura, che je zona, and Montenegro, queer Montenegro, and in Macedonia with the great activist which decide to remain anonymous, Lagarta, and she's simply wonderful, so honored to be here and to have the possibility to bring the Balkan in the global scene.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Arturo Bregaglio from Paraguay, and my organization, Trinidad Association, and this experience in this book is for children and adolescents in your rights and the bullying with other subjects. Thank you to APC for this opportunity, and thank you to Alan and Rox.
Well, thanks very much to all the authors, and I encourage everyone who's here to look at the book. Is there another author who is there?
Okay. Hi, I'm Ana Rewar from Uruguay. I'm coordinator for Observatic. We have made the report from Uruguay since 2009, I think, and it has been a great experience. This year, Maria Goñi did the report, and she sends greetings to all of you, and especially to Roxana, and tells me through WhatsApp that she has been a great coordinator. So, nice to be here.
Thanks
yes,
a lot.
An applause to Roxana then.
And I think we've got a remote. Is there a remote participant?
Thank you, Chair. We have a question from Mr. Valaldi. He's going to ask by audio.
Thank you very much, Walid, and it's really good to have you here with us in voice and spirit. So Walid was the author of the Yemen chapter. Another author has arrived. So Jacqueline, you can just quickly say who you are and one sentence on what the report meant to you.
Yes, Giacomo Mazzone, European Broadcasting Union, but I didn't make this report on behalf of the European Broadcasting Union, but as a coordinator of a team of 5 people in Italy that every year cooperate, trying to cope with the topic of the year. This year, the theme was reached by other 2-person specialists on these specific issues, so that we can have a better understanding of the problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Just so you will notice that with GISWatch we have all countries from a country that's in a state of war like Yemen to Switzerland and Italy. And for us that's a very important part of the GISWatch ethos, which is that it's about North-South solidarity and it's about cooperation. It's not about who's rich or who's poor. It's about people working together to have rights. So I'm going to ask our phenomenal coordinator that you've heard about, Roxana Bazzi, to have the last word, and then you can have lunch.
Okay, my last word is lunch. No, don't leave yet. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the authors, especially. It's always a learning experience for me. It was great because I knew nothing about this subject. It was brand new for me. And I have my favorites, but I can't tell you. Please grab a copy of the book or come to the booth to get one if you can't. We just published this online last night and already we got 1,200 downloads. So people are accessing it already, okay? So thank you very much for being here, for being part of this project, and we hope it continues next year, having you as authors, as collaborators, and readers as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Lunchtime. Bye.
Well, just last but not least, we do have to thank the donors that have been with us and that have been with us part of this road. It's not, we don't pay people very much, but just thank you very much to HIVOS and to CEDA, and it's really wonderful to have you here, and without your support this year's edition would not have been possible.